Hey, well, when I picked this, it was fall vibes outside. The air was really cool. You wake up and it was 50 degrees in the morning. And when I was
Yeah, that
looking
went that went away pretty quickly here in the good old state of Alabama.
up very quickly.
Soundstripe.
Welcome into another episode of Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast where if you're like us and you miss the days of packed movie theaters and movie stores, and this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Caleb Suggs. Joining me are my co-host, Dakota Lowry,
What's up, everybody?
and Ernie Ferguson.
My boy Dakota's wicked smart.
And he is. He
is wicked
indeed.
smart. I know.
He is indeed.
That's why I didn't say you or me. That's why I said Dakota.
I'm glad y'all think so highly of me.
All the times he uses my name, and then the one time he does it is... I feel like I should be offended.
You can if you want to, but we both know he's smarter than both of us. So
That's your Boston accent.
that's as close as I can get to a Boston accent with being wicked smart.
The Boston accent. I don't really... Accents really don't bother me. Has there ever been a movie, though, where like the accent was just so bad you couldn't watch it?
Last
Varsity
week.
Blues.
Okay.
What?
It was easy.
You
It was
asked.
easy. It was easy.
I'm talking... Okay, not about a movie we've done on this podcast where you were forced to watch it.
Kevin Costner's accent in Robin Hood, or lack thereof, just being. It was like he's supposed to be Robin Hood, this English legend, and all of a sudden he sounds like he's from Kansas, but everybody else was doing these British or accents, and him not so much.
Yeah, I think... but yeah, I actually like the Robin Hood movie. Again, maybe it's just because I'll have the Bryan Adams songs in it.
Yeah, I mean I like the movie. I don't think it deserves the shelling that it gets, but again, Kevin Costner and his accent was what we were talking about. I mean, we won't talk about how Alan Rickman overshadowed him in the entire movie.
Then again, Kevin Costner, I recommended 13 Days to my friend, and he couldn't watch it because of Kevin Costner's accent. So maybe that's just a Kevin Costner problem.
Okay, so here's the question: is it because of the accent, or is it because we're from the South and the Boston accent is a harsh accent to listen to?
I don't know.
Because like a Midwest accent, like if you watch Fargo or people from Chicago talk about their cars and not, or a boat or something like that, that doesn't bother me. But whenever like Affleck he gets after in this movie, and he lets his true Boston accent come out, which I like.
Understanding is our actors playing up the accent, or is that really how it sounds? Because obviously I've never been to Boston, so I don't know.
I think it's kind of like going to the sticks in Alabama, and you have that southern drawl. Whereas if you go to like Huntsville or stuff like that, you have that southern accent, but it's not laid on thick. Where I think Boston, there's certain parts of Boston, like the Southeast, like they were talking about this whole entire movie, where their characters are from. I think you're getting that hot talking like that all the time. I think you're getting that, and you're like, am I in a foreign country or what for us?
Well, this week we're doing. I'm sorry, Dakota. You look like you had something to say.
Man, I'm here. At this point, I'm here. Okay, like
what the listeners don't know is this is what, take four?
Yes.
4 or 5, something.
4. Oh, good
Slight
times,
technical
good times.
difficulties. Back to our old school days when we first were doing this, and my thing would get knocked off every other time.
But yes, we were doing Good Will Hunting this week. This is Dakota's pick. He picked this. I have a little bit of a head cold, so Ernie may have to do a lot of the talking. No, that's unusual. I don't know if he's up.
What a
I don't know if he's.
Alright.
I don't know if he's up for the challenge.
I don't know. My Friday night activities of being a play-by-play caller or whatever, that may melt my golden pipes a little bit.
What would you two do though if I wasn't here? Y'all had to do the show without me. Like if you had to actually do that.
We probably wouldn't do it.
We wouldn't. You have the subscription to the platform we record.
I can easily give you my. I can give you my login. It's not that hard to do. You just log into it and press record. It's really not that difficult.
Yeah, it's the stuff that comes after that's difficult.
I didn't say you had to edit it. I could still edit it for you. Like I'm just saying, like if I woke up and I was like really, really sick, but and then like the show must go on.
We would disappoint our fans and say, "Oh, we're not happy. We have one mulligan in the year whenever we can take it." So
Dakota's wife, my dad, and your daughter would throw fits.
I tell you what we do is we go back to the early days, take one of the movies that we've already done, and then just put another movie title on it and see who picks up on it first.
See are they really paying attention?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like that college kid that did the paper and he just inserted a paragraph on bananas just to see.
Whoa, wasn't that
I don't know if that's like an urban legend or if that really happened. No, I'm sure that's.
Wasn't that a Dylan and Cole Sprouse thing in Sweet Life of Zack and Cody?
Oh,
one of the twins would always
probably.
Yeah. It was because it was specifically about bananas. Like one of the twins would steal the other one's papers, or it might not have been that one. I don't know.
That's pretty funny if I like self-consciously remembered that, and I was thinking it was college. I could have swore there was somebody though in college that did that just to see if there's professors actually read the papers, which I assure you a lot of them do not.
Wasn't that a thing in How I Met Your Mother too?
I don't know.
There was something like that in Mad About You because that's what we're binging right now is Mad About You is that type of shenanigans.
I don't remember.
Well, anyways, Good Will Hunting. This is what Dakota picked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted when I picked this, it was fall vibes outside. The air was really cool. You wake up and it was 50 degrees in the morning. And when I was
that went away pretty quickly here in the good old state of Alabama.
Very quickly. But I wanted a movie that kind of reminded me, and I mean a movie about school kind of reminds you of those vibes, and that's what a lot of people said. On the internet they recommended this movie as a fall vibe type of movie, so that's what I went with, which it kind of fit the ticket,
So you wanted a movie about school, so you pick a movie where he's not in school. Ernie wanted a movie about school. When school's starting back, so he picked a movie where it's the end of school and they're starting summer.
Well, I mean, the one thing we've done in the last 4 weeks, we have gone after two Ivy League schools in almost Ivy League school. With honors it was Harvard, Varsity Blues it was Brown, and then Good Will Hunting is MIT. Well, we also talked about Harvard.
Harvard. Well, they didn't talk about it. She's Minnie Driver's character is from Harvard. Is in Harvard. Right?
Yeah, that's where they go visit.
Like she hails from Harvard. She is going to school at Harvard in this movie.
Is she? Is that Ireland? Is that an Irish accent?
She's British, but then when they started talking at the bar, then she went into that Irish accent. But I don't know if Minnie Driver's from Ireland or not. But we might
should figure that out because if we have any British listeners, they get pretty mad when you.
No, she's from London.
Confuse the two.
Well, we do have on the website, England pops up every now and then. So some bot or some spam ends up clicking on the website from England.
Somebody using a VPN because we've had people from like China and Russia and stuff that have listened to our shows.
That's true.
Yeah.
Welcome to you all. But no, she's from England, from London.
Yeah, I've heard of this movie. Obviously, I've heard of it. I've never seen it though. I did get those vibes from Robin Williams' character. That's kind of along the same lines as what's that movie called?
Dead Poet Society.
Yeah, Dead Poet Society. I felt like their characters were very similar in this movie. Obviously, he drops a few more F-bombs than he dropped in Dead Poet Society.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be able to do that in a private.
Not completely the same. I'm just that same vein.
Yeah, you have kind of the mentor, but I mean, the one thing about him is he is definitely a more damaged character than Dead Poet Society. But man, I wish Robin Williams would have done more roles like this. Now, again, they probably had to rein him in, exponentially. But man, he's so good in this movie. I guess that's why he won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. But I mean, he is. I think he's better in this than Dead Poet Society, and I loved him in Dead Poet Society.
Oh, that's a good question. That's tough. See, I felt like there were times I wanted more of him in this movie. Just to be completely honest with you.
Oh yeah.
You know, I felt like, you look at the poster, you see him and Damon there together, almost like they're co-stars together, and I guess they are. But I felt like he just wasn't in it as much as I thought he was going to be or wanted him to be.
Well, that's the big name to bring you to the movie, because as you'll talk about later, how much how much it costs. But all the other actors in this were not necessarily big names. I mean, I think Skarsgård might have been the closest thing to a big thing or a bigger named actor at this point in time, but not Affleck. I mean, Affleck only had, I think, Dazed and Confused. He came off that. Affleck, I think, not Affleck, but Matt Damon, only because he was in
was this before
Courage Under Fire, which is what really broke him up, because he really caught people's attention in Courage Under Fire. But I can't remember before this or after this if The Rainmaker came out that he got, but that kind of made him a household name. But
was this before or after Saving Private Ryan? I can't remember when.
This is before Saving Private Ryan. I think it was 99.
Yeah. No, so this is 98, or I think maybe, or I was thinking 97, but it's at least 98. It definitely wasn't 99.
Saving Private Ryan was 98.
Okay.
And then this is 97.
All right, so this was before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but they co-wrote it, didn't they?
Yes.
Damon and Affleck.
Yeah, that's one of those things where, like, you get like Rocky, who was Sylvester Stallone, who wrote it and starred in it. So you don't get too many of those like that. I think Orson Welles was one of them that had written and acted in it, and I think Charlie Chaplin. I think Woody Allen. I can't remember. There was another guy that ended up being part of the writing and acting in a movie. But it was like 5 years that this took forever for this to get made, and I think the movie studios wanted to get bigger names. I think like Brad Pitt was one of the names that was thrown out there to play. I think it was to play Will's role. And so, but they stuck with it, and they are in again. The big thing was getting Robin Williams to get the big name out there, and that he was the one that really kind of led people to getting behind the movie.
I'm a big fan of Ben Affleck. Just want to throw that.
No, but he was good. He was good in this.
No, I said I'm a big fan.
Oh,
no, you may not be.
Okay, I thought you said
no.
you weren't.
I am a big fan.
Okay.
No, I don't know. Well, you may not be, but I am. Some people don't like him, but I've always liked him. Just about anything he's been in. I even like the Daredevil movie.
That was all right.
I know. I'd say I know Skarsgård, didn't really have that big of. I mean, he had a big role in the movie or whatever, but I'd tell you one thing I didn't realize about that dude is he's produced a few actors and children. I was looking it up because I mean, obviously, Bill Skarsgård, one of his most well-known kid with it, but I mean, he has 5 children that are all actors and have portrayed in different movies, and I think one of them's like a doctor or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but I think the dude's also got like 7 or 8 kids or something like that.
Those Swedish, they're
he has good genes. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, none of them, other than like Bill Skarsgård, I don't know any of the roles. All the other ones haven't had like any like major.
Nobody got my Sydney Sweeney commercial reference there.
Shut up. Cancel.
Oh no!
What
will we ever do without the money that we get from this podcast?
It's right next to Cracker Barrel. Getting canceled.
Good Will Hunting is a 1997 American drama film directed by Gus Van Sant and written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. It stars Robin Williams, Damon Affleck. Oh, it stars Robin Williams, Damon, and Affleck, Stellan Skarsgård, and many. It looked like Damon Affleck. I was like, who? I didn't remember. Oh, okay. It stars Robin Williams, Damon Affleck, Stellan Skarsgård, and Minnie Driver. The film tells the story of a janitor, Will Hunting, whose mathematical genius is discovered by a professor at MIT. The film received acclaim from critics and grossed over $225 million during its theatrical run against just a $10 million budget. At the 70th Academy Awards, it received nominations in 9 categories, including Best Picture and Best Director, and 1 and 2, Best Supporting Actor for Williams, and Best Original Screenplay for Affleck and Damon. In 2014, it was ranked at number 53 in the Hollywood Reporter's 100 Favorite Films list. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking about like the movie that won Best Actor was As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson. I didn't like that movie, and again, it's Nicholson's portrayal of a guy that has severe OCD, But man, Matt Damon in this movie. I'll tell you what, Matt Damon, Robin Williams, and then Affleck, and Cole Hauser together. The 3 friends together it's just good, and Skarsgård does a good job of being the character that he is too, and that's it. It's for a movie that doesn't have a lot of pace to it. That's kind of slow. It's fantastically acted, I think.
No, I think that's definitely the strength of the movie is the acting in it, because like you said, it's kind of slow. It gets, not gonna lie, at least to me, it got a little boring at times, but not to the point to where I didn't like it. It was just like, okay, but that's when you have to like really focus in on what the dialogue and the way they're acting, and it does a good job no matter whether the scene is in a bar or a construction site, or when it's in some classroom or professor's or therapist room where they're getting really deep. It doesn't matter what kind of setting is, the actors make it work.
Yeah, I think the only really big complaint that I had about it was, with Will's character, that they didn't really. So they kind of built up like all the issues that he had over the like majority of the movie, and then right there at the end they kind of dropped the, oh well, yeah, I was kind of beat by my foster dad when I was a kid, and then like 10 minutes later you get the resolution to all of it. And like you don't really you see kind of see him opening up right there at the end of the movie. I kind of wish they had kind of showed the reason behind why he was the way he was just a little bit earlier, and then maybe played that out a little bit more, and then coming to the resolution at the end of the movie. It just kind of seemed like there was a lot of build up to just right there at the end. It didn't really you don't really get the why he is the way he is until you get that final conversation between him and Robin Williams. I just kind of wish it happened a little sooner.
I think that's fair, because that threw me for a loop. I was not expecting that. I just thought he's an orphan, so he was, abandoned, so he has problems, at getting attached. And everything about the movie kind of spoke to that. So when you get to the abuse part, it's kind of like, well, that just kind of came out of left field there.
But to me, that explains the whole part, how he treats everybody, especially all the 3 different shrinks that Skarsgård brought him to. I don't think there was necessarily a resolution for Will. It was more like just kind of an aha moment. Now this is what I have to deal with, and it also it helps them tie into the friendship between him and Will and Sean. I didn't have necessarily an issue with not them holding that information, because that's what led to the building up of the relationship to where Will could finally trust him to be able to talk to him about Skylar, and for him to actually listen to Sean tell him, you're a coward, basically, for not doing anything, not holding people at arm's length and things of that nature. because you also see that's where that to me is the important part of the fight between the professor and Sean when they're arguing about Will and what their true purpose, I guess, behind supporting Will. The professor wanted to use him for his own gain or to not lose that kid's potential, whereas Sean is like, I just want this kid to be okay.
So, I mean, could you not kind of sympathize with Skarsgård's character though a little bit? I mean,
Yeah, a little bit, but again, that goes. I think that's where the relationship with Sean being a Southie, also a South Boston guy, also, and where he truly understands um, where Will is coming from. So he understands the being uber smart, but then also being part of the streets. Like the whole for the retarded gorillas or whatever he called his friends, and how Sean basically tells him, yeah, but those retarded gorillas would come in here and beat your head in with a bat for Will too. So that's a lot of the understanding that I got for that. That's why I loved watching the relationship between Sean and Will from the jump, where Will just absolutely rips Sean up about his wife and all the things that he's hiding from. But yeah, I mean, I understand where the professor's coming from, but I also question, is he doing it because he doesn't want to see this kid's potential to be wasted, or is he doing it to try to help him make himself look better?
yeah, and I see the personal gain for the professor, try to make himself look better, and I think they kind of do a good job portraying that of him, just wanting to do this so it makes himself look better. Um, but on the other hand, I do see kind of what he's talking about sometimes, where like, hey, you've given this kid a chance of a lifetime. It's like what was it that Sean said to him that you know most of the kids who go here, their parents are bricklayers their entire life, so that they have the opportunity just to be able to come here. You're throwing it away and throwing it out the window, and I think that kind of brought, I guess, a little bit of frustration for Will's character and with me. I mean, I know he like obviously has the abuse and stuff like that, and you kind of sympathize with that later on, but I can see kind of where the frustration would come from. But when you don't, when you're just on a surface level, you're looking at this kid that's just like, hey, I'm giving you this great opportunity, and you're kind of just spitting in my face here. You know what I mean?
Which, ironically, working and teaching a lot, it's one of those things I never thought I'd say over and over and over again. But you see, nothing this is Will, but you see people who are afraid to succeed. And so if because you have to try, you have to put yourself out there, and if you fail, it hurts. But then so don't even try. Like, I remember we played a football game, and I'm sorry I'm tying this into football, but I mean, we played a hard fought game and we lost it. And I remember one of the kids saying, why even try this hard if we're not even going to win? And I'm thinking, man, that for me, that didn't make sense. Cricket.
I thought Dakota was going to have an answer there.
No, dude, I thought you were about to. I thought you were going to read earlier, so I was going to give you a moment to.
He's nice. He opens the door up for you to read, where I just keep on talking.
Well, 20-year-old Will Hunting of South Boston is a self-taught genius-level intellect with an eidetic memory, though he works simply as a janitor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and spends his free time drinking with his friends Chucky, Billy, and Morgan. And Professor Gerald Lambeau posed a difficult problem taken from algebraic graph theory as a challenge for his graduate students. Will solves the problem anonymously, stunning both the graduate students and Lambeau himself. As a challenge to the unknown genius, Lambeau posts an even more difficult problem and changes chances upon Will solving it. Fearing he'll lose his sole means of a meager income, Will flees and skips going into work the next day. That night, Will meets Skylar, a British orphan about to graduate from Harvard who plans on attending graduate school at the Stanford University School of Medicine immediately after. So the movie opens up with. I just kind of want to mention this because I found it interesting. This kind of like. What would you call it? fantastical music, ET like music. Like, I don't want to say adventure music. It's almost like the spirit.
It's like an upbeat, spirited type of like go with the wind, free type of thing. Like I get what you're saying.
I just, again, because I'm going in, I've heard of the movie. I know it's a popular movie. I knew absolutely zilch about it, though. I didn't really know anything it was about. So you have this music that opens up to it, and then we kind of go into, I guess, MIT and stuff. And it took me a minute to understand what it was quite was going on.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I've seen the movie, and the problem solving I thought was later on in the movie, and it pops up early, and I was like, "Oh man, okay," But you see kind of the arrogance about the math professor coming out, And what I thought was amazing was, and again, I guess this is the ethical parts of these math students. I'm like, I would have gone, "Yeah, I solved it." I'm the one that solved this
that's
one.
What I kept waiting for. I was like, this is so unrealistic. You're telling me nobody's going to step up and say they solved this?
But I think if you couldn't prove it, because he probably would have talked to people. He would have talked to you about it. What's your reasoning? What's your thoughts like that? I mean, that's one thing.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
You don't want to get nailed in Harvard for saying that you did something you didn't do it.
First of all, this is MIT. Second of all, I guess this is why I'm not smart enough to go to MIT, because I would have been like, I solved it and not thought about the repercussions of it.
I put all those lines and dots and stuff like that. That was me. It reminded me of Braille, so that's what I did it to make this math problem solve.
I just look at the stuff like that and I'm like, how did people like? I don't know. That looks like Chinese to me.
This is a question for Terry Ferguson.
Yeah,
she's the one who taught proofs in geometry, and I love math. I love doing math. I love algebra. I love calculus. I love all of it. I absolutely hate geometry and I hate proofs, and so there's no way in this world I would have sat down on a knot and just try to prove whatever equation this was.
Yeah, I'm out on all this.
If I need a whole chalkboard for one math problem, it's too much. It's not for me.
When I took Cal 2, the guy would give us our test on Tuesdays, because we had a class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He would give us our test on Tuesdays. It was 5 questions. We would turn it back in on Thursday with all of our scratch paper, and I would usually turn in about 10 pages of scratch paper with stuff on it.
Absolutely miserable.
It was. I hated it. I loved it, but I hated it.
I'll tell you what. I want the chalkboards though, where that you can move up and down.
Oh yeah, and they moved at the same time. Like when you pull this one down, the one behind it went up. Yeah.
I can't stand the sound of chalk or writing on a chalkboard. I can't.
Yeah, that was. I meant to mention that last week in Varsity Blues when the teacher was writing on it. I had to take my headphones off. It was awful.
Which again, I mean, when I went to school, I graduated high school in 1992. We didn't have chalkboards, so I don't know. I'm like, we had the whiteboards. I'm like, where are these people at with all these chalkboards? But I mean, this is MIT. You're telling me that MIT doesn't have money coming out their ears?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's probably some arrogant math professor says, "No, sir, I only use chalk and I only use chalkboards. That's all we're going to do."
He's not opposed to technology though, because later on you see them using the projector with the
overhead projector. Yes,
the overhead projector. Like he's not opposed to technology. What are you talking about?
But I also like the introduction of the group of guys, Ben Affleck and all his windsuits that he was wearing. I was like, man, that is a 90s thing that you had, And I also like the interaction between Ben Affleck and Casey Affleck. They weren't brothers in the movies, but they sure were acting like brothers in this movie, and it was great watching them. And Cole Hauser to a little bit, just ragging on each other. Yeah, that's Ben Affleck's brother.
Yeah, Casey Affleck. He's in the Jesse James movie with Brad Pitt.
So yeah, I mean, I liked it. I mean, just constantly ragging on Casey Affleck's character. The best part of one of the best part of the movie is whenever at the very end, whenever they realize that Will's not at the house, and you see Morgan get out of the back with his big old grin on his face, and he's like, "All right, I get to ride shotgun now that Will's not here," and gets in the front seat. I'm like, "Yeah, that is what a friend what friends would do right there." The body's not even cold, but I'm going to take that seat.
I'm guessing Cole Hauser and Ben Affleck must be friends because this is the second movie in the last 3 weeks we've done that they've been in it together.
Yeah, what I liked, one thing I did like what they did with Cole Hauser is he must not have been able to get a good Boston accent because he didn't have very many speaking lines. And if you're gonna cast him as a Southie and he doesn't have an accent, then just have him talk sparingly, and it worked. I thought it worked. He did a good job on it.
And hey, this was Rip before Rip became a thing in Yellowstone because he doesn't talk a lot, but he's got that menacing like, yeah, I don't want to mess with this dude.
Yeah, they all did. It's just I don't know if this is when they had the fight or whatever. You know, the guy who picked on Will or something like that, the basketball game. I think, yeah. So this was during that time, and then they just do the slow motion fight. That was one of the things I was like, okay, that was the one thing about the movie that I didn't particularly like when they had the fight at the basketball court and they just do all the slow motion punching and all that kind of stuff. It was like that was kind of cheesy, but it is what it is.
Was this also the time where they had the bar scene at
the Harvard bar scene, where he meets Skyler?
Yeah, the first time.
Yes, this is where he goes through and humiliates the Harvard student.
Yeah. I think easily that was probably one of my favorite moments of the movie because I mean, really, you didn't. I mean, if you have any connotation of the movie, you kind of know that Will was the one who solved the problem. But before this, you never really knew that it was him who solved it, did you?
I think they showed him working on the chalkboard. I thought. Yeah. Well, no, he did it on the mirror of in the bathroom or something like that, and you saw him working on that. But again, that was another thing. You had in real life. Just listen to some other people talk about this. In real life, at that Harvard bar, Affleck, who's like 6'4", would have dragged the ponytail head guy outside the bar and would have beat his tail. That would have happened for sure. But then you see once Will steps up, that's when you see Cole Hauser pop up, and in the background, Casey Affleck's got this huge grin on his face, just leaning up against the bar because they know our boy that's wicked smart is about to go off, and he just did. That's the one reason why I picked this line instead of how you like apples, how about these apples or whatever, because it was great because it was the side character that was just, he knew what was coming. He knew this guy was about to get buried, and he was just sitting back, leaning on the bar, and he was just enjoying it. And then he let Will get by, and then he just deadpans, looks at Skyler, and he said, "My boy's wicked smart." And it was a great line delivery, I thought.
The whole interaction, I think, was probably one of my favorite. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, later on with some of the scenes with, Robin Williams, I like those, but I think this was a really great way in my mind to introduce Will and how big of a genius he actually is, and show that, hey, like, even though he's just a janitor, he actually is pretty smart. And what was the line? You're paying thousands of dollars for something that I that I learned for $1.50 in late fees.
Yeah.
Well, assaulting a man who bullied him as a child, Will faces incarceration, but Lambeau arranges for him to forego jail time if he agrees to study mathematics under Lambeau's supervision while simultaneously seeking behavioral health treatment with a therapist. Will tentatively agrees, but treats his first few therapists with contempt. His refusal to open up is met with staunch defiance by the high-level mentality of the therapists who each refuse to treat Will further. In desperation, Lambeau calls on Dr. Sean McGuire, his estranged and much more grounded college roommate who now teaches psychology at Bunker Hill Community College. Unlike the other therapists, Sean actually challenges Will's weak defense mechanisms, and after a few unproductive sessions, Will begins to open up.
That word was bourgeois.
Yeah, I had another word in my head that sounds similar, but I do not think it means even close to the same thing. And I just didn't want it to sound. I just didn't want it. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna come up with something different here. But
I'll be honest, I
yes,
feel like bougie would have been a better word to put there, but I think
well,
bougie's become too much of a slang term nowadays.
on the fly there, we'll just go with that. But you talked about one of your favorite scenes being the Harvard bar scene. One of my favorite scenes is him in the courtroom. It absolutely
Oh
made me
yeah.
laugh, just him going through the the stuff, and he's talking. The judge is like, "You've had this case thrown out because of this," and it's like all these old court cases from like the 1800s.
And this scene right here though was very reminiscent to me, as the same scene from With Honors, with Joe Pesci's character in the courtroom trying to represent himself, trying to get a case dismissed for some off the wall obscene reason. It was just both the scenes just seemed very reminiscent to me. It just had different ways that the rich person from the Ivy League school got them out of it. With Brendan Fraser's character paying his bail or whatever it was to get him out, and then in this scene, obviously he's like, "Hey, you got to learn under me," But it was just both the scenes were very reminiscent of each other to me.
I like how then that leads to him breaking down both the two therapists. Also, he just starts going after George Plimpton, the first older guy. He just starts tearing it in. I don't do pro bono work anymore. And as he came out, and then the hypnotist one, he just starts going crazy there too. I mean, it was perfect. Which again is a great intro to him and Sean, and that his purpose with Sean was I'm going to break him down. Which
I love. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I love Robin Williams' introduction in this.
Yeah,
I think they could have easily just made this be he go to Robin Williams' house or whatever. But him being a professor at a community college,
mm-hmm.
and him going, and you actually see him going through his kind of lesson before Skarsgård's character comes in, is a great introduction to the character and kind of the background that Robin Williams' character has.
Which again allows Will again to feel that comfort around him too, instead of having these two Harvard or MIT type of professors. Here's a guy that's at a community college teaching people like what Will would be, I guess. And that leads to that comfort. But again, the one session where they don't say a word for an hour. Just kind of they're tested. Both of them are testing each other out. Again, I thought was really good too.
Yeah, I think that first interaction between Skarsgård and Robin Williams was probably my favorite interaction between them, because even then it kind of set up that early precedence of clearly, Skarsgård's character was way more focused on his career when he couldn't even, like, he attended a convention or something like that instead of going to, his friend's funeral, his friend's wife's funeral, and it kind of set up that whole that early precedence about it, and I really like that.
So did Sean put his career on hold because his wife got sick, or did he already put his career on hold when he was married? That's one thing I couldn't figure out.
He did take a break. He said he took a break for 6 years while his wife was sick, and the last two of it was hard.
But then I also think that there's also some that maybe he didn't go as hard because he wanted to spend time with his wife even before she was sick. Because I could see,
because he talks about the World Series Game 6.
But I think to me, that's more like college. I feel like I could be wrong.
Yeah, but I think that's when he talks about meeting his wife.
I know. But what I'm saying is, I think that he didn't go as hard as Lambeau who did all the work to get a Fields Medal, because in that line of work, I feel like you kind of have to be all about the work. Whereas he wanted to, because he met this amazing woman, he wanted to spend time with her, so he didn't spend as much time working hard as Lambeau did.
Yeah, I think that's that's the one important part about the World Series story is that his wife was the most important part, and that's kind of what we get at the very end with Will, that he's going to go after the girl, because he's doing the same. Oh, he stole my line, and so it shows him. So you have him putting his career on hold. You have him for somebody from Boston, in that World Series, and he passes up going to the World Series game, just for a girl. Now, do you agree with Will that his boys should have beat him up for missing out on the World Series game or should he have stayed with that woman that he met for the very first time?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So, do you agree with Will that said that Sean's friends should have beat him up for passing up on going to the World Series to stay with the girl?
No, I don't. I don't agree with that. I mean, if that's his decision, that's his decision. You let him do whatever he wants to do. Now, I do not agree with the decision to skip out on the World Series for a girl. I mean, you actually haven't even met the girl. He just saw the girl and decided, hey, here's my ticket. That's the most bullcrap thing I ever heard in my life. Ain't no way. I'm sorry. I love my wife. She's absolutely beautiful and stunning. If I saw her walk in, I never knew who she was. I'm not saying here's my World Series ticket or national championship ticket or Super Bowl ticket or whatever. I'm gonna go talk to this girl. I might go talk to that girl. I'm get her number. We'll talk later after the game. But I'm just that's complete bullcrap. It would never happen.
So here's my argument with this whole entire situation. And Caleb, you can probably back me up on this. If the woman is from Boston, she would have slapped him for not going to the World Series
Yes.
and stay with him, because that's how rabid Boston fans are. So I'm like, okay. But again, it still makes it's a great story because
it works in the movie.
Because of Will's reaction. Will just couldn't believe that anybody would do that, and but that leads to that realization that we get at the end of the movie, that Will finally gets that. Well, Skyler he leaves that job that the Professor Lambeau has for him, and he goes chases the girl because he finally got a piece of crap car he could drive to California.
Yeah, but here's the difference though: is you have Sean who looks at a girl across the bar and is like, "Yeah, I'm not going to the World Series because of this." He actually had a relationship with Skyler. He could actually had something that he could pursue in California, and him leaving for California made a lot more sense than him not going to the World Series.
I will say it's also a way less realistic if it happened in these days than it did in 1975, because the World Series ticket in 1975 was $12. A World Series ticket these days is going to cost you, at minimum, I would say $500 at minimum.
Oh, more than that.
I can tell you it's not $12. I went to the Astros and the Braves, and it don't cost $12. So,
how much did it cost?
I really don't remember, but I know it was expensive. But then I also told my wife, I said, well, if the Astros are going to go to the World Series again, of course I put the wrong World Series to go to, that we're going to go. And with it being in Atlanta, that was close enough for us to drive.
So which game did you go to?
Well, it was the one that
was it the Game 5 where they took that big lead and then blew it? The Braves, I mean.
No, the Astros lost, because I remember I went to the bathroom right when Altuve hit the home run. And it was also when the last pitcher ever batted, because Greinke came up and pinch hit and got a hit. So that may have been Game 5.
Game 5 was the one with where Atlanta took like
4.
A huge lead, because they had like I think Atlanta won games 1, 3, and 4, I believe.
So I think it was 4.
And then
hold on, forgive me. Don't they do the thing where they?
Oh wait, you said you went. What now?
Don't they do the thing where Game 1 will be in Atlanta, Game 2 will be in Houston?
Games 1 and 2 are in Game 6 and 7 will be it, whoever, and then games 3, 4, and 5 will be it. So yeah, it would have been game 4, I guess. Yeah, I got confused because you said you went to one the Braves one. I was thinking you were at one the Astros one. That's why I was.
No, I don't know. I wouldn't be that.
I
lucky
wasn't
to do
listening.
that.
In one ear, out the other.
Yeah,
But anyways, Will is particularly struck by Sean's story of how he met his wife by giving up his ticket to the historic sixth game of the 1975 World Series after falling in love at first sight. Sean neither regrets his decision nor does he regret the final years of his marriage when his wife was dying of cancer. This encourages Will to build a relationship with Skylar, though he lies to her about his past and is reluctant to introduce her to his friends or show her his rundown neighborhood. Will also challenges Sean to take an objective look at his own life since Sean has been unable to move on from his wife's death. Yeah, I like that there. That's the cool part about the movie is you get that give and take. It's not just Sean trying to get Will to open up, but it's like more about them learning more about each other. I was very confused though when he brought up the brothers. I was like, okay, is he lying? I was a little confused at that part. I guess it took me. I didn't because I really at first I was like, does he have brothers? So.
I think one scene that we're overlooking was so you had the first scene where between Will and Sean where he looks at the painting and then he kind of rips Sean a new one and is doing the same thing he does with everything else. Then the next session is like Sean's just like, hey, let's go for a walk, and then you get the great scene between them on the bench where Sean sits down and goes through the basically like, hey, kid, you've never lived and you don't really have a right to kind of tell me, you don't know anything about anything and you don't have a right to sit here and kind of teach me about this and turn my life upside down about this.
Good. Yeah, that's a good call because that was a good speech by Robin Williams. And that's again, man, every scene with Williams and with Damon was fantastic.
Yeah, they had a great give and take between the two. We've done a lot of movies where we talk about, the relationship between two characters like this. That's obviously not a physical relationship, but two characters that can really feed off each other and make each other better. And these two certainly fit that category.
Which, and for somebody who wrote the script, Damon is purposely backing off to allow Robin Williams to cook too. And that, I mean, for a Hollywood person, that's a big deal to, allow the limelight to get away from you, especially since it's your movie.
Sorry, I forgot. Sorry,
Connor, you are never ready. I always try to give you your moment because it's usually me and Ernie, and you are not ready.
I went back because I'll be honest, I wasn't paying much attention when you were reading this because I was thinking about, hold on, I need to go back and talk about that park bench scene. But
Story of my life. He never pays attention to me.
Okay.
It's all about me.
Yeah,
but
you never listen when I talk.
But then also, I mean, the bar scene where Skylar's introduced to the friends, and then because you think, okay, here's this Harvard girl who has this trust fund because her dad passed away and she's going to be all snooty. And then she comes up with the off-color joke that just puts the blue-collar boys just laughing their tails off and like, oh man, this girl's awesome, and they're like, Will, hey, you got a good one here. And I thought that was a good way for them all to kind of agree with her or like her for Will.
Yeah, I think that was one thing that I didn't really understand that Will did was the deflecting about him having 12 brothers and stuff, and I don't really know. I don't really understand why he did that.
That's why I was confused when he said it. I was like, okay, does he have brothers? Like, or maybe I didn't know if he was talking about like the maybe people he was with in an orphanage or something. Because I was just very confused. It was just very random.
I don't think she believed him either. Because she made him repeat the names.
You could tell that she did. Because she did the name things. That's impressive, though, to be able to go through those names like that twice in a row that you just made up.
Yeah.
I think it's the defense mechanism for him that, okay, so I grew up an orphan, so what's the opposite of that is coming from? Well, I mean, and to be honest, Catholic family in Boston having 12 kids is not unheard of either. So, so I'm going to double down on saying just the opposite, than tell you the truth about me, because again, he doesn't want sympathy. So he also doesn't want to run her off either. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for him if he talks about either one. If he talks about his true family,
Which Robin Williams even calls it out later on in the movie too, where he comes up and says, "Hey, like, you're always looking at the worst possible outcome, And so I think he kind of thinks of that worst possible outcome and focuses on that, and then sets himself up for it. It was just like, oh well, she's probably not going to believe me anyway, so why would I tell her the truth?
Well, chafing under Lambo's high expectations, Will makes a mockery of job interviews that Lambo arranges for him. Will walks in on a heated argument between Sean and Lambo over his future and greatly upsets him. When Skylar asks Will to move to California with her, he panics and pushes her away, revealing that he is an orphan and that his foster father physically abused him. I did not remember that part. I did not remember him admitting that to her.
I do remember them yelling.
Yes, that's what he the belt, the wrench, or whatever. He got to choose what.
I must have glossed over that.
No, that was between him and Sean. With her, he was talking about the scars and the cigarette butt burns and things like that.
Okay, yeah, okay, I don't know. Anyway, so Skylar tells Will that she loves him, but he denies loving her and then leaves. He next storms out on Lambo, dismissing the mathematical research he has been doing. Sean points out that Will is so adept at anticipating future failure in his interpersonal relationships that he deliberately sabotages them in order to avoid emotional pain. When Will refuses to give an honest reply about what he wants to do with his life, Sean shows him the door. Will tells Chucky he wants to be a laborer for the rest of his life. Chucky responds that it would be an insult to his friends for Will to waste his potential, and that his fondest wish is that Will should leave to pursue something greater. Will decides to accept one of the job offers arranged by Lambo. Okay, so I know there's a lot there, and you guys are going to talk about, obviously what you want to talk about. I want to skip a little bit and talk, though, about that scene with him and Affleck in the construction parking lot over the truck where they're having lunch. That's a great scene. That's probably my favorite scene.
Yes,
of the whole movie. That's just a great, and because it's, I feel like that's real because we get a little bit of it with him talking with Sean, where he's talking about, hey, what's wrong with being a mechanic or a janitor? People make an honest living with that, but you're wanting to be like, yeah, but you can do more, but he's not, like, it's not coming across the best way. Chucky's way of explaining to it that, like, hey, it's an insult to us if you have all this, but is just great. Ben Affleck is great in this scene, and I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, tapping into that, because that's the big, what happens to Will doesn't bother Will. But the disappointment and the "I'll kill you if you're still here when you're worth 50" type of thing, because that means you're down on your boys. That's what's going to hit, because it's been obvious through this whole entire movie that Will doesn't care what happens to him. He doesn't. He's all the friends are loyal to each other.
Yeah, because there's nothing wrong with working construction your whole life. Now, it can do physical things to your body, like my father-in-law, who is kind of broken down from being a bricklayer. But as far as the work itself, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with being, 30 or 40 and going to your friend's house and watching the Patriots game on a Sunday. But, if you have these abilities, if you have this potential, you never want to see anybody just throw it away just because, for not really any good reason. Now, I'm not saying you have to do what Lambo wants him to do, but you don't have to be a manual labor like this either, kind of just waddling away your potential, not using your potential to do anything.
Yeah, and I also think that this scene kind of hits hard because it's a very realistic scene that I think guys have had with each other, especially when you have friends that you don't really connect with all that often, and you sit down and have a conversation with them like, hey, man, you still dating that girl or whatever? And it's like, oh, no, we broke up. Or, even I had a very similar conversation with one of the guys that works for me this week, where I was just sitting down like, hey, man, how, things working out between you and your wife? And he's like, oh, no, man, we're getting divorced. And it's like, kind of that heavy, hard hitting scene, and that conversation between people. So like, I mean, I've definitely had conversations like this with people before. So I mean, it's a very realistic scene.
Yeah, that also leads to one of my other favorite parts with Chucky was whenever he went into the job interview for
Yeah, I
Will.
was about to bring that up.
He's got his hair greased down. He's got the suit on with his tube socks with stripes on, and he's just negotiating. He literally walks out with almost $200 in cash, as he's going. And he just starts throwing these big $1 million words that don't make sense together. Again, that goes back to the
what was it? I work pro bono, or what was it? A retaining fee. The retaining fee.
And they're like looking between each other, like pulling out their wallets. Like, can you imagine any job interview where you just have the bosses like pulling out their wallets?
But yeah,
by the way, I would hate a job interview where not only is there 3 guys interviewing me, but I'm sitting in this chair in this big room with that's like far back. Like, that would freak me out.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that. I've definitely been in interviews that are panels before, and that doesn't really bother me that much. But the being so far away, I didn't really understand what that was.
I've been in interviews with there's multiple people in the room, but one where you're kind of like, it's kind of like you said, like a judge panel. I've never been in one like that.
Yeah, I need that table that I can rest my arms on or my hands on instead of just having nothing in front of me where you're like, okay, how do I sit? Which way do I cross my legs? Or
actually, I take that back. I did an interview at UAB, and it wasn't necessarily a judge panel, but it was like this big conference table with like everybody that worked in that office was in there, and I was having to do like this presentation. And also, it was pouring down rain that day. And I don't know my way around UAB campus. I didn't know. So like I walked around for like 30 minutes in the pouring rain before I even got into it was bad.
Rough.
I got there like where I would have been walking in like 40 minutes early, and I walked in like 10 minutes before the interview. It was bad.
Hey, at least you got there that early though.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. UAB's campus is terrible. That in downtown Birmingham, that is a terrible place for a college campus.
It is one of those things that I'm really glad about now, like on GPS. I know this is off subject, but like GPSs, you could search like UAB, like nursing building or whatever, and it'll take you directly to that building instead of
the GPS I was using at that time was screwed up all which way. It had me going.
back in the back when they first rolled GPS out, you just had to go to UAB campus, and it would take you to like the UAB like sign or whatever. Like if you had just searched it up, it was just a sign. At least that's the way the University of Alabama was.
Anyways, Ferg.
Yeah, I can't remember what part of the movie we're at. I don't know how far we got on the movie.
We are in the movie.
I know I said how far in the movie we've gotten.
Oh, I can tell you.
So he pushed the girl away.
Yeah,
he kind of pushed everybody away right there.
So I'll go with it anyways. And if we haven't got to it, we haven't got to it. But from the time that she gets on the plane, after that, you have just the hits of the movie. You have the scene with Affleck. You have the scene with Sean and Lambo. You have the scene with Sean and Will. It's just this is where the movie picks up, and this is where the hard hitting scenes truly come. No matter it's a movie, but it always breaks my heart in a movie when you have somebody tell them that you love them, and the person on the other line loves them too, but refuses to say that so they can't future break that person's heart. So they're going to break that person's heart right now instead of in the future. And that call, whenever he's just talking to Skylar, just like normal. And then that when she says, "I love you," and he said, "I think have a good life," or something like that. That's heartbreaking for me.
You also get the scene here kind of there towards the end again where you have Sean and Lambo coming back together, and they're more talking about like what do we want. obviously, what are our goals? What do we want for this kid? And that's where you get the big argument between them and that big kind of falling out between them. And uh, I thought that was another kind of a great
Mm-hmm.
scene between Skarsgård and Robin Williams, where they kind of played off each other a good bit because, I mean, it was a good argument, even both of them trying to prove the other one, like, hey, you've ever heard of Albert Einstein? You ever heard of whoever the other person was? Have you ever heard of Jerry Lambeau? And
Well, then who's Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber?
yeah,
That was good. I like that part. Well, Sean and Will share that they are both victims of child abuse, and Sean helps Will to accept that the abuse he suffered was not his fault. Having helped Will overcome his problems, Sean reconciles with Lambo and decides to take a sabbatical to travel the world. When Will's friends present him with a rebuilt Chevrolet Nova for his 21st birthday, he decides to pass on his job offers and drive to California to reunite with Skylar, which he mentions in a letter to Sean. So I'll go ahead and let Ferg talk about this scene because obviously it's a big and powerful scene.
Yeah,
It's really going to tug at the heartstrings.
Yeah, just the acceptance between the two of each other for the two of each other, the shared experiences that they had, and just the it's not your fault. And you see that in victims, and I've had some friends that have been victims of different types of abuse, and it never fails where if I would have done something differently, this wouldn't have happened to me. Or, the victim is always it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault. And especially when you're talking about child abuse, it's not the child's fault. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just some people are just pieces of crap, and they shouldn't have kids, But it just the absolute heartbreak and the embrace that Sean has to and that Will allows him to give him. It was just. But then also, most movies wouldn't have completed the arc for Sean either. But Sean then realizing he has been stuck, he has been just sitting around, has just been doing nothing, and then that's when he starts to pack everything up. And again, they show the difference between Lambeau and Sean throughout the whole entire movie. But one final difference, well, how long are you going to be gone for? 6 months. There's a reunion, of the class of '72. I'll buy you a drink. And then Skarsgård says the drinks are free. And that's when Sean says, I was speaking ironically, and just so you see the difference in just their perceptions in life altogether. But, just the whole entire thing where you see Will free to pursue something that makes him happy, but that also allows Sean to pursue something that's happy, and that's one of the things I think as someone who has lost their spouse, you can easily be just lost in your sadness if you allow it to do that. And it's one of those things where, sometimes it's a minute by minute thing, sometimes it's a day by day, sometimes it's a week by week, sometimes it's a year by year type of thing of dealing with grief. But it took him pointing things out to Will, and then Will pointing things out to him to allow him to deal better with his grief.
Yeah, that was one thing that I really liked in this is that they didn't just, oh, I'm magically better now because I talked about it, and like
Yeah.
it kind of still showed that, hey, that even though you're getting help and you're going through that, even if it's in Will's case unwilling, that it's a process that takes place. And even at the end of the movie, where it's not like he's just magically okay and just he's all happy, go lucky, but and even that he didn't get the girl or anything, and that it is in happy, but it just I really like the fact that they kind of didn't just make it kind of, hey, well, I'm all right now.
Like Suggs is silent now for once.
Nope.
Oh,
you
I'm
got.
sorry.
There you go.
I had my
There you
mic
go.
muted.
Good job.
My bad. I was like, I forgot I muted my mic so I could take a drink. Oh well. So, Suggs is silent for once. This is coming from you. I don't think you have any room to talk.
I don't. Yeah, I have plenty of room to talk. That's why I can talk.
Oh gosh. Well, anyways, what I was saying is that brings us to the end of the movie. So, guys, do you have anything you want to add before we move on to the rankings?
Yeah, let me ask you this. We don't really ever talk about this. Some movie titles just kind of, it is what it is. Like, With Honors kind of made sense, because it kind of went with it. Star Wars, obviously, it's.
You're gonna ask what Goodwill Hunting means? That's a good question because I didn't have a clue either.
I didn't. So first off, I thought I didn't really understand what Goodwill Hunting was, and then I realized, his name is Goodwill Hunting. But the movie title doesn't really make sense to me. I didn't really get it. Why it was named that?
Well, there are two possibilities. One is, again, Will hunting for himself and hunting for, reason in life and stuff like that. But there's also the possibility, and this is a big stretch here, is that the original screenplay was basically two parts, was this personal piece. And then it was also the more of the second half of the movie was him doing the NSA/CIA type of stuff, where it almost became kind of a spy type of thing. But the movie exec said, no, let's just focus in on this, the personal relationship stuff. That's a big stretch for Goodwill Hunting, but I mean, I guess that's probably, but his last name was Hunting, right?
Yeah.
Yes. His name is Will Hunting.
Yeah, so maybe it's just looking for the goodwill instead of just, just always looking for trouble, always looking for fight. I mean, again.
So I was just thinking good, Will Hunting. I think it was more, I don't know. Also, when I initially saw the movie title, I was thinking like Goodwill, kind of like.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, you have a janitor who realized, like,
when I typed it in Pluto, I put Goodwill in one word.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. It's like, you have a janitor who a professor realizes is a genius and is out of his goodwill hunting for him a job or hunting for him a better place in life. I don't know. That makes more sense to me than whatever this is. I don't know.
Well, there's always one different podcast that I listen to. They always ask, what's a better name for the movie? And so that's one of those things where, I always look at movies like, man, that movie title's horrible. Then I try to think, well, what can you think anything better? And I'm like, no, never mind. I'll shut up. And I'm like, what else would you name it?
It could be Finding Will Hunting.
How you like tease apples?
As a guy who struggles with what to name his articles sometimes, I've already used my creative thinking to name an article I wrote today, so I'm not gonna contribute anything there.
Nowadays we would go to AI and tell the story.
Chat GPT
and say, hey,
do that more often. Not the story, not to write my story.
Yeah, Chat GPT, your
to come up with a name, because I really do struggle with naming sometimes. My favorite thing to do is put a quote that someone says in the story as the title.
There you go. That way you don't have to think about it.
Exactly. That's why I do it a lot.
Yeah, find the clickbaity, like give half the sentence.
No, it's not a clickbaity. I don't do that kind of stuff. I'm not into that. I did do that. I wasn't meant to be clickbaity. I did do that one time though, but I said something about in the first line that this team's not supposed to be good, but the story was how everybody thinks they're not supposed to be good, but they're good. But of course, on social media, you know how people don't actually read articles anymore. It just shows the first line, so the whole team like plashed it over the locker room and stuff. So I was like used as their motivation, and the whole time it was me bragging on how good they were going to be. Good times. All right, anything else to add before we move on to the rankings?
So compared to Dead Poets, better, same, or worse movie?
Mm,
Or I guess I can go with our scoring, I guess, too.
Well, so
yeah,
I think that's two very different movies though, because I mean,
Hmm.
in this movie you have
I
more
would rather
of
watch
a
Dead Poet Society. I'll just put that out there.
well, I mean, yeah, Dead Post Society I think is a better paced film, but I mean, this film like you have somebody who obviously went through childhood trauma who is kind of trying to overcome that and find his way in the world, whereas in Dead Poet Society you have a
We
kid who
create
is
childhood trauma.
yeah, and it's the kid, you know, kind of trying to deal with the trauma that he's kind of experiencing.
Yeah, I
Doesn't
don't know
deal
if
with it very well.
I don't know if
No, he
my
doesn't.
scores are going to reflect this when I give it, because I think we've seen, the way sometimes the way we think we score movies is not the way we score it the next week. You know how that
Mm,
works. But
yeah.
if you just ask me, hey, would you rather watch Dead Poet Society or Good Will Hunting? I would rather watch Dead Poet Society. Just throw that
More
out there.
humor, but there's more humor in Dead Poet Society.
Yeah,
Even though it's a sadder
Even though
movie.
there's
Yeah.
a ton of actors in this movie that I like. I love Ben Affleck. I like Matt Damon. I like Robin Williams. I like Cole Hauser, even though he's not really like, you know, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, anyway, all right. So I guess we'll just go jump in the rankings in, and since I'm already saying that, I guess I'll just go first. Yeah, I thought it's a good movie. I understand why a lot of people like it. It's not necessarily the best thing I've ever seen. I did think the pacing was kind of tough sometimes, and I did find myself getting bored. And I feel like I have to kind of give it, I don't know, the strikes for that. But at the same time, for what I thought, maybe I would score a movie that was paced like this. I want to bump it back up because the acting is phenomenal through it, and there are a lot of scenes that are really good, like the scene with Damon and Robin Williams in the park, or the scene with Damon and Affleck, talking over the truck. Those are some really great and well acted scenes. So overall, I think I'll give it an 8.5.
Well, just watching this, it's one of those things where it makes me long for more independent type of movies as opposed to franchise movies. Franchise movies are good for okay, I'm going to shut my brain off. Let's go. You know that's fine, but this taps into the creativity of the writer. I mean, again, a $10 million movie that makes over $200 million. That it's these are the type of movies that we need to support. So we can get more than just property type of movies. But it just Robin Williams, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, all the relationships with Casey Affleck and Cole Hauser, it was fantastic. Again, the pacing was a little slow, but I don't mind it that bad because I think just the different relationships and how they were able to truly like tap into it was really really good. I'm going to go 8.75 with mine.
yeah. I enjoyed this movie. Overall, I mean, like we've said, and I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse about the pacing and the acting and stuff like that. Um, it just overall, I sat down and I kind of enjoyed it. To kind of counteract your point about $10 million movies, um, I don't know of many $10 million movies that are getting released to the movie theaters nowadays. I think a lot of those independent type films are getting released to like streaming services, and that's why you don't really hear about them or see anything about them. And I mean, like even if you look at a lot of like Adam Sandler stuff that he's wrote and released, I mean, he's just got a contract with Netflix. But going back to this movie, um, I mean, I think the interactions between the different characters are what really makes this. I don't really think that there's any one character that kind of stands out in this movie. Uh, I think it's more the relationships that they work between each other. The relationship between Will and Sean, and the interactions between Lambo and Sean, and then the interactions between the three friends, and Will and the three friends, and it's really those interactions that kind of make it. I know we talk about a lot of movies where it's just like, okay, well, these people were so, and this one person really carried it, but this really just had. I mean, it had a really good cast of people who really, really kind of you hit the nail on the head with it. So I think I'm going to give it an 8.5 as well.
All right, so that's two 8.5s from me and Dakota, and 8.75 from Ernie. I cannot add. That averages out to an 8.58. Ernie, where does that put us on our rankings?
That ties us at 16 with The Usual Suspects.
All right, so there you go. A 16 on there. If you would like to see the full rankings list, you can go to our website, podpage.com/classicblockbusters. That's podpage.com/classicblockbusters. You can go on there, see our full rankings list. You can see our individual scores that we give the movies, as well as which movies we've picked throughout our 50-plus episodes that we've been doing. All the episodes are on there as well. We are on Facebook. You can find us, Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast, and you can find us on Twitter at BlockbusterPod1, or X now, I guess is it's called. We're streaming with a new episode every Thursday on Apple Podcast and Spotify. And as I was telling the guys this past week, our average number of listeners has really jumped in recent weeks, which is, we really appreciate that. It's also kind of surprising because the movies we've done, well, I mean, yeah, anytime we get a bump in listeners, it's surprising to us, but it's also surprising just from the fact that the movies we've done in the past month really haven't been high profile movies, but yet we've had that jump in listeners. So, but anyways, we appreciate everyone that has listened to us, and anyone that jumps in is listening to us the first time. We thank you for listening to us. And Ernie, it is your pick next. What will we be watching?
I'm going to something out of my norm. I'm going sci-fi, and I'm going 1995's 12 Monkeys with Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt movie. You never go wrong there.
Yeah, that's where it led. It's one of these movies that I've been trying to find streaming somewhere, and then that's why I asked y'all about YouTube TV, and I was like, hey, it's on YouTube TV. Let's go. So, it's less commercials than Pluto TV.
Yeah. This movie, let's see. Good Will Hunting was what, like a little over 2 hours or a little under 2 hours?
Yeah, just a little over 2 hours, yeah.
I think it took me 2 hours and 40 minutes to watch because of commercials.
Yeah, I pulled a Dakota on this one. I watched it in multiple sittings. I don't normally do that. I like to usually just sit down and watch the movie, but that's the way it was this time around.
But Pluto gives you some natural breaks. Or even some unnatural breaks in the movie.
Very unnatural breaks, yeah.
All right, so 12 Monkeys, that's what we'll be doing next week. Have y'all seen that in the news about Bruce Willis lately? Pretty heartbreaking. I mean, he's gotten to where, he pretty much is just not there anymore mentally.
Yeah.
That's sad.
I think the last thing I seen, they were having to admit him into a nursing type home or something because he didn't even really know who his children were or anything. Just didn't remember being a famous actor or anything. Oh, that's tough. Wow. But we will enjoy this Bruce Willis movie in his honor next week. Guys, anything else to add before we roll up? It's a good weekend It was a good weekend for me and Ferg. This past weekend, our teams won. Alabama's team, Dakota's team, unfortunately, laid a massive egg.
Yeah.
You hate to see it.
Let's talk about that. Whoa.
Well, we'll see you at the movies next week.
I gotta say something because in 2 weeks I'm probably not gonna be able to say nothing. You know how our teams are, Ferg.
Well, that's why I don't say anything because I know exactly how my team is. A&M 8-4, baby. That's what we strive for every year.
All right. So as Ernie said, we will see you at the movies.